Good morning. Good morning. How is everyone on this Thursday morning? How is everyone? God is so good. He's awesome. He's mighty in every way. And I thank God each and every day that He woke me up. But I want to just kind of talk about a few things. I won't be on here long. I cannot. I have an appointment. But I won't be on here very long. But it was just a few things that I wanted to talk about. And there are different witnesses that came on the stand, and just some of the things that I was going over and thinking about. One of the things is the $3 million that FR is suing R. Kelly for. She had brought this lawsuit against him after she said he didn't respond to her. So she brought this lawsuit. But she didn't want to answer a lot of the questions that was being asked of her. She didn't want to respond to them. And she asked Judge Donnelly, the judge, does she have to answer? Well, yes, you do need to answer, and they can hold you in a contempt of court. They could hold you in the contempt of court. So she didn't want to answer those questions when she was testifying. And then, do you remember the interview where she FR said that her parents would not approve of what she was doing and the relationship she had with R. Kelly because he was double her age or something like that, half her age? Well, why is it that there was a phone call came in, or she was talking to R. Kelly or something, and the mother was able to say hi to him? So are you saying that your parents didn't approve of the age, but then she was like, oh, hi. But I was talking to a family member yesterday, and they brought this up and said, well, they didn't approve of the age, they didn't approve of the relationship, but when they found out it was R. Kelly, then it was okay because he's a millionaire, and their child is dating a millionaire, that's got money, fame, success. And that made a lot of sense when we were talking, because I talk about this case off of YouTube quite a bit with my close friends and family members. And I keep them abreast of a lot of the things on the defense, on the cross-examination, because the media, the mainstream media, is not putting it out there, you all. And you know that, the ones that are supporters of Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly and the ones that believe in the justice and are against injustice. So I keep them abreast of what the mainstream media does not report as far as cross-examination. So that was a question. So to me, she was out to get money from this man. It was a setup. She was the jump off. She knew, she looked him up. She Googled him. And, she was already, I think, wasn't she already part of that lifestyle of being a groupie, a jump off or whatever? And she was 19, so she was not 17, as the prosecution has had all these other witnesses to testify that they were 17 or whatnot, but she was not 17. And I remember one time that she came out and said she was 19. She was not 17. She was 19. She was of age. And then rumors started going or floating around that she was 17, she was 18. But I always remember her saying that she was 19 when she met R. Kelly or started messing with him, or something to that effect, or she turned 19, but she was not underage, okay? Then, she has a friend that they were like sisters, Summer Bunny. Do you recall when she was FR allegedly put a cease and desist out on Summer Bunny, and they had fell out, and that Summer Bunny couldn't talk about her, and anything. But yet and still, Summer Bunny had stated that she already had the H, had it. And herpes, she had it. So I'll say H from now on, okay? Just because. And so, and there was something to do with somebody when they found out about it, a boyfriend or something. Didn't she get beat up or abused, and she was in these abusive relationships? And I'm not sure if that ties in to someone finding out, or she gave it to them, or they, something like that, H, or she confronted them. I'm not really sure. Somebody might remember that video, that story out there about that he was supposedly dragged her by her hair and some other things, ran her over in a car, or her foot, or whatever the case. I may be wrong. I may not have it all correct, so correct me in the comments. But she told the police in 2013 and this was in testimony, so this is not hearsay from me, is that she already had the H. The H symptoms, the H word, the H diagnosis. She already had it. So you mean to tell me that, and she's saying the police is lying and she never said that, but it's documentation that they have that written down. So you're saying that they just wrote up something, they cooked up a story and documented, because we do know that there are some corrupt police officers, corrupt prosecutors. We do know that, and some corrupt judges. We do know those things, but is she saying that they lied? And will they come forward, the police officers that took her statement back then in 2013, will they be able to be subpoenaed to come forward to collaborate that they're not lying? And this is what the documentation of paperwork says, the report says. So that means that if they're not lying, and that report is what it is, because once it's a report, it's in writing. And if she feels that they lied, how come she's not suing the police department for defamation of character of false information placed in the report? Because we do know that that happens too, right? So we're looking at it from all angles. We're not just looking at it because we're supporters of R. Kelly, but we're looking at all angles. So how come she didn't, once she read that statement, that it was in there in 2013, because you have an opportunity after you give a statement, they let you read it. And she said she read her statement. She signed off on it, but she didn't correct them. Because, see, I'm a person that would have said, no, that's not right. I'm not signing anything until it's absolutely correct. And that even means the street name. That even means the street name. I want it correct. The name of the street, I want the spelling correct. When it comes down to my name, my government name, a lot of people misspell my name. They mispronounce it. And I always tell people when they ask me what my name is, like if I'm out somewhere and I'm at a restaurant, what is your name? I give it and I spell it, because there's so many times my name is wrong. And but anyway, why didn't she correct that and tell them that that was not correct, that shouldn't have been in the report? You know why? Because she already more than likely had it. And I'm just saying, it makes sense to me. Are we not supposed to believe what comes out on the stand? These people, witnesses, are testifying, and they're supposed to be testifying under oath that they swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth and the whole truth. And we've seen a lot of incriminating statements. We've seen people getting mixed up with the lies that the prosecution is coaching them ahead of time to say. They don't know how to answer. Even with the one witness, Addie, that said, I didn't know they was going to ask me these type of questions. Well, you never know what someone's comeback is. That's why you need to tell the truth. Because when you tell the truth don't need no help. And you can clear yourself from the burden of lying, and the truth will set you free if you tell the truth. So you don't have to go back later and have this burden up on your heart that you might be held accountable for perjury and things like that. So you really do need to tell the truth. The other thing is, why is the mother the only one testifying of FR? There should be other parents on the stand. They should be subpoenaed to come on the stand to be cross-examined, their testimony about things that they have said out here. And then the fact is that their names was brought up, like the Clary's name was brought up on the stand. The parents of Azriel Clary, number 5. I'm sorry, Jane Doe number 5. She testified, and implicated them. And I do believe that parents should be held accountable for their actions and their choices that they make. And when it comes to your minor children, you have to be a fit parent, not an unfit parent, putting your children in harm's way to be hurt, to be, put at risk, in a secular society, in a world where there's a lot of, perverts, and there's a lot of, criminal-minded people. So to put and just to putting your child out there where they can be harmed. So for you to do that, to put your child out there, and then to keep pushing her on a man that's definitely way older than her, but lying about it. That's what's sad about it. We do have to protect our children. We definitely have to protect our children. as parents. And if you keep telling someone that you're a different age than what you really are, and you never clarify or come, and you get involved in a relationship, an intimate relationship or sexual ship, and you never tell the truth until after the fact, to me, that's entrapment. You are entrapping, this person by not being truthful from the beginning. And these parents were not truthful at all. They set this man up. Their parents were chasing a bag. They come from an impoverished area, from what, Bmore all the way to Kissimmee. And if you go back and you look up the Bmore, go and look it up. What the population, the demographics, the household income. Look at all those things. These people really didn't have the resources to do what they wanted to do, so they used other people to do it. And they thought that R. Kelly was the meal ticket to their daughter's success. And they thought they were going to be successful by being associated with this man. But the way they went about it was definitely wrong on every level. I look at entrapment, some extortion going on, because they were saying that when she pretended to be Jane Doe number 5, and then she comes back, and then start saying, now that you're having sex with my daughter, you need to put money in this account and all that stuff. I believe that Jane Doe number 5 was telling the truth on the Gayle King interview. And I believe that Joycelyn was also, she collaborated that they were telling the truth. Because even the Savages, Timothy came out talking about some money or whatever, and his daughter wasn't even underage. She was 19 when she left college. That's a choice. And children do make choices. So I do believe these parents should be held accountable for their choices and for their actions. Period. Bottom line, they should be. They definitely should be held accountable. And for the, again, prosecution to act like they shouldn't be called to testify and things like that, that is wrong on every level. And this racketeering, they're trying to make up their own law and change the racketeering laws. Because originally, and I was thinking about this yesterday, originally they said that they were charging him for what? Holding young girls hostage, not feeding them, not letting them go to the restroom. What? They were urinating in buckets. They were kidnapped and things like that. Now it seems like this man's sex life is on trial instead of what they really was charging him with. And now they're trying to come back and say something different, which we don't agree with, and we have to talk about that and get it out there in the mainstream media. And although I have a very small channel, but we need to get it out there. How can you first charge this man with all this stuff you're saying under the racketeering, and then you want to go back and change what you're charging him for? See, I caught that when I was listening to it. I was talking to a family member a day or two, and I said, no, this is not making sense. They were charging him for one thing, and now they're trying to change it and say they weren't, but they were. And I haven't seen anywhere where they have really found him to have done illegal things. Maybe under the eyes of God, some moral issues are involved with that, but that's between him and God. But legally, I haven't seen that yet. And so there's a lot of people that are in their feelings, they're in their emotions, and they don't want to believe the law, the truth. They don't know the law. They don't go on the law. They go on emotions. And we have to go on the law. What does the law say about the things that he was doing? What does the law? Was it illegal? And then I also had another question about nobody is really questioning. There's a few people maybe, but nobody's really questioning about everybody wants to say, he urinated on a 14-year-old in a video, but he was found not guilty in that trial. How do we know she was 14? Because you do know that a lot of black people, our age, we don't always look our age, but a lot of us, we look younger than what we really are. And so, we're older than what we look younger than what our age really is. We're older than what we look like. So how do we know what age this young woman really was, young lady in the video? And how do we know she wasn't enjoying what was going on? Because if you ask me, a lot of people have some fantasies and some things that they want to do or they want to experience. And everybody's, sex life is different from other people's. So how do we know she didn't like what was going on? How do we know she didn't enjoy it? How do you know she didn't have that conversation with him prior and said, hey, this is what I want to do. This is my fantasy. Oh, I got to look, my twist is like up where I slept, and I thought I tied it down good. But anyway, how do we know that wasn't a fantasy of hers or both of them? So we got to stop putting our emotions in it and acting like, well, oh, he did this, he did that. That's wrong. Well, in your eyes, it may be wrong, and you may be more conservative and traditional, but in somebody else's eyes, they may have enjoyed it. They may tell you they like all of that stuff. I mean, me personally, I would not want that to ever happen to me, and I wouldn't allow it to happen to me. But I'm saying that, how do we know? And I had to write my notes down so I remember what to talk about, that I wanted to talk about when I start thinking of these things. But how do we know that people don't enjoy certain things that other people? I mean, I brought up the Trevor Bauer thing, and what about him? He said that this woman he was with, it was a consensual relationship, consensual, their intimate relationship, sexual relationship. She wanted to be choked and slapped. And he did that. And she wind up with 2 black eyes. And if you're light, fair skin, you can't, if somebody hits you hard enough, and even if you're darker than what I am, and I don't consider myself to be light skinned or light. So I consider myself to be a dark skinned woman. So, and I know there are darker women than me. But with that being said, some people like that. And he said she wanted it. So he gave her what she wanted. And isn't in a sexual relationship you supposed to aim to please? I'm not trying to make light of things, but most people are in a mindset that they're aiming to please, whether it's aiming to please them selfishly, aiming to please the other person, or both parties consensually are aiming to please each other. And so we have to get out of our emotional feelings about what's been going on with Mr. Kelly, with this case, and even other cases, and start looking at the laws, because the age is 18 in America to be considered grown. Now, in each state, you have to look at the age of consent laws in each state. In Illinois, it is 17. And I used to live in Illinois as a child. I lived in Illinois. The age of consent is 17. Then you got to, and so in Chicago, Illinois, okay? Age of consent. Florida is 18. California, 18. So you have to, and if you keep looking at other states, Georgia, 16. And I was having a conversation with my mother one day, and Georgia used to be 14, and they had been working to get that law changed to raise it up. And guess what they raised it to? 16. Not 17, not 18, 16. So they're still operating on a law where the young woman can be a minor, but yet still, a minor. They didn't raise it up but only 2 years, and it's still 16. You know what I'm saying? So with all this being said, we have to know the laws. And one time I spent a whole hour looking at the age of consent and went over it, me and my mom talking about it. And I pulled up every state the 51 states or whatever. I mean, I went back looking at every state, man. And I can't remember all that. That was a couple of years ago because we had been talking about this with the R. Kelly stuff. So it was about 2 years ago. And man, I tell you, the laws are different in the age of consent. And even some of them say, well, 2 people can consent if they 15 and 16 or 17, 16 and 7. It was things like that. I mean, you have to really understand these age of consent laws in different states. You just from state to state, you have to understand that, and we have to get out of our emotions. And then they asked the question, well, what if you had a daughter? Well, my question is, what if you have a son? See, we have to look at it from all aspects of it. Some people have daughters and sons. Some people just have a son or sons. Some people have just daughters only. We do need to look at all aspects on both sides of it. We cannot be biased when it comes down to what if you have a daughter? Well, we're supposed to be raising our children in the way that they should go, and they'll never depart from it, right? Some people, if you're not raising your children biblically, what about morals and values? What about the morals and values and integrity? And talking talking to your children about things and the birds and the bees and being real with them, but in a manner that they can understand it. Because you know that a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old is not going to understand something that an adult that's going to understand. So you have to talk to them in a manner that they understand and comprehend. And like even raising my son, and I've shared, I have a son. I don't have a daughter, but I have a whole bunch of nieces. But even raising him, having to learn how to talk to your children, and even with the father getting involved and talking, because I remember my child was, I believe, 3 years, was he 3? He was 3 years old, and we talked to him, right? And when he would go to preschool, they would talk to him. There was a very good Catholic preschool that my son attended, and they were some great teachers and employees there. And one of the things is we took him to his pediatrician, and thank God it was a Black pediatrician. I promote Dr. Johnson, very, very, very good pediatrician, okay? Because we don't give enough credit to, our own. So anyway, that's why I threw that out there. And this was many, many years ago, okay? But anyway, my son, he had to examine him. And I remember this wholeheartedly because my son said, no, you cannot, no, only mommy and daddy. And I remember him telling the pediatrician that he could not touch, he could not examine, because that was off limits. But he didn't say off limits, but he kept saying, no, this is only mommy and daddy. You cannot touch. And he was telling the pediatrician, and it was almost kind of funny, but hey, keeping it real, we have to teach our children about violations. And so he was like, no, only mommy and daddy. And he covered it, and he had his hands down there, and he covered it because he was saying, you cannot do this, only mommy and daddy. They already told me that. And he said, and my teacher, and he was talking, my son could speak pretty good, very well. And so he was like, no. And it took about 10-15 minutes for we to get through this. And the doctor, pediatrician, was like, but it's okay. Mommy is here. And, I have to, talk, make sure you're okay. But he went on with that, no, only mommy and daddy. And then I said, Brandon, I have to tell him, son, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay that, that he needs to examine you. But I tell you that, we do have to teach our children, raise them up in the way they should go, and they'll never depart from it. And, and as your children get older, you have to stay connected to them. You have to see what they're doing. You have to be a part of their life. Social media accounts, all types of things, who they're hanging out with, who they're dating or not dating. If you allow your children to date before they turn 18, those type of things. You have to see what's going on, staying connected, being a part of what they're doing, their schoolwork, their activities, extracurricular sports, staying connected to your children. Because I have a son, and when people say, well, you're biased, I've been called biased before on someone else's channel, and I was on a panel, and I said, no, I'm not biased. I'm just looking at all aspects of it. And we as mothers that have daughters, and I don't, but as a mother, I'm saying a person that has a daughter has to start looking at it. Even if you have a daughter, are you saying your daughter's promiscuous? Are you saying that you didn't raise your daughter correctly? Because that's every time you hear that, well, I have a daughter. It shouldn't matter if you have a daughter. It should matter if you've raised them upright. It should matter if you're following the laws and you know what the laws are. It should matter that you're protecting your children and making sure that you're being the fit parents that you're supposed to be and training them up. Those are the things should matter. And not just throwing out here that I have a daughter, because children can do things that they shouldn't be doing too and be rebellious. And so you want to hold a man accountable for everything that your children are not being held accountable for. And then as a parent, you don't want to be held accountable. You just want to keep saying, well, that man should know better. They should know right from wrong. Yeah, but if you're raising your children, they should know right from wrong too. And you as a parent should know right from wrong also. And so you have to hold your children accountable too. Not just sit up here and say, because of course a grown man shouldn't be messing with minor children. I got that, and I'm not supporting some nonsense, and that when men are doing that, I don't support that. I mean, I am way against a man or a woman messing with underage children. I want to make that very clear, that if they are violating children in any kind of way, and they know the age and they're doing it anyway, they are wrong, and they do need to be held accountable legally. But if the man does not know how old a female is, or a male, because boys can be assaulted too, and abused and things like that, and molested. But if a man doesn't know, and all you're doing is telling them you're 18 when you're not, that's entrapment. They don't know. And then an ID is shown, that a fake ID, and you don't know it's fake, that you're 18, and you're promoting that, the parents is promoting it. When will the parents be held accountable? And when will the women be held accountable? And it was something came out that, well, if we start holding them accountable, then they won't be willing to come forward, the real victims. I disagree with that. I think you're trying to compare apples to oranges when people do that. I disagree with that. There are laws in place. The police department is in place. You can tell somebody, you can call a hotline. There's a sexual abuse hotline that you can call and say that you have been violated or raped. There's a rape line you can call. So to sit here and say that that victims will not come forward, so you don't want to pass certain laws, I disagree with that, and we need to stop using that excuse. We need to hold people accountable for when they're lying, when they're not being truthful, when they're making up lies to put men behind bars that are truly innocent. We need to hold police officers accountable when they suppress evidence, when they don't give the evidence, when they falsify reports, when they know the truth is out there and they have the truth, but they still bring charges against a man that clearly you don't have the evidence to show that this man did it, or you lack evidence to prove that they did it, but yet you still go forward to prosecute men. And it's a lot of black men that are incarcerated now that are actually innocent, but they've been accused of rape and sexual assault. So we got to really look at these laws, and maybe we should get a movement started to start protesting to change the laws, or a movement started to talk about how women that are lying are not being held accountable, because women do lie, and we need to believe that and stop going on with this false narrative that the Me Too movement have pushed and put out here, because women do lie. Women are not damsels in distress. Women know how to fight. Women know how to use their voices when it comes to money in the workplace. When you're applying for a job, you know how to apply for a job. Most women know how to ask for their salary that they feel, ask for a salary. Now, some women, may not. Most men go out and this is what I want when it comes to a salary. So we're trying to get women in that place, and that's fine. But to sit here and say that women don't know how to open up their mouth, when they want something, they open their mouth. And you hear them talking about how fine men are, and I wish I was with him, and he got a nice looking car. Girl, he got it going on. Girl this, girl that, and talking about the man's private parts and all this other stuff. You know how to open up your mouth and ask for things. And I believe Jane Doe knew how to open her mouth. She's been opening her mouth since we found her seen her on social media, right? She's been opening her mouth. She's been talking about things. She was not no virgin. She was not. And in my opinion, she was not. I wasn't there, but I don't believe it. This stuff about these females trying to say that R. Kelly was the one. No. Somebody else was the one. And in my opinion, somebody else was the one. And this is not about victim shaming. We just need to take our emotions out of this and see it for what it is. We cannot put every man behind bars because we were assaulted. It happened to us. We were violated. No, we cannot put every man behind bars and assume that every man is guilty because something happened to us. No, we have to believe there is a constitution out here, the U.S. Constitution, Constitution, and we should be following the laws and the U.S. Constitution when it comes to the presumption of innocence and to proving guilty, because it lies on the prosecution to prove this man's guilt. Okay, so he's innocent into proving guilty. Okay, and then the accuser, the accused, the defendant has a right to due process. They have a right to legal counsel. They have a right to those things. And when we look at if we take our emotions out of it, we will start to see the bigger picture, and we'll start to see things more clearly. Because right now, I think people are in a fog, and they don't want to see things the way that they need to see them. They want to see things the way that our emotions we will act upon our emotions. And a lot of times when our emotions involved, it clouds our judgment. And I'm just keeping it real. When our emotions are involved, a lot of times it clouds our judgment because we're acting on emotions. And we're liable to say things we don't mean, that we regret later on. Like the Jane Doe number 5 father, he's still out there making up stories that she was liable to say anything on the stand because she was beat for 4 years. Now he's saying something about what did he say? Oh my God, it was something else that he said. She was spoiled. She was spoiled. That's why she said that. Spoiled shouldn't have nothing to do with implicating your parents, man. You're saying she was spoiled, but she implicated them. I mean, I can see being spoiled and you're being disrespectful. You're having a tantrum. You're stomping. You're yelling. You're crying. Hands up in there like little kids do. There are, I would say, not parents, but grown folks that do that too. But does that mean they're going to implicate their parents or implicate a loved one and lie on them because they're spoiled? That man has every excuse, and that needs to stop. Your daughter implicated you all on the stand, and you were running around here with these concerts trying to get dildos, a dildo business venture, and I call it a Lodo Angelo to the dildo. And the reason why I say that is because he should do it. He should record his daughter. If you want generational wealth and you say you're self-made, do it then. Stop putting other people's name in that. I wouldn't want my name out there. Okay, and then again with I think with FR, I think that she's trying to clean up her image. She wanted to look a certain way on the stand and clean up her image, but her image is already out there. And that's important that they show those pictures. That's important that that video gets out there where she was saying she wasn't a victim. She wasn't a survivor. She didn't want to take on, that name, and be labeled that label. She didn't want to take on that label, but she's trying to clean up her image. I wouldn't want to lose opportunities because I said some things. I wouldn't want the whole world, and she put that out there, that he gave her this, but I think it was somebody else gave it to her, and that she was looking for money, and RSK had the money, and that's what they do. They go after people with money. And I think that's what was going on with that. But she's definitely trying to clean up her image. She's definitely trying to clean up her image. Then Demetrius Smith, one of the things I had a question about, because the media didn't report that the other part of that, as far as the license, that he interfered when the officiant would start to talk about the processing of the license after the ceremony was done. He interfered in that. And the reporters, the media is not going to report that, about that he didn't process it because Demetrius interfered in that. And it's within 10 days you have to file the license. It's within 10 days, okay? Otherwise, the marriage is just a ceremony and is not a legal union, okay? A legal union. And that's from Cook County. Also, what was interesting to me is, I believe it was John Doe number 1. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to report anything wrong. I don't want to talk about something that I'm blatantly wrong about. And it's not my intention. So please, if I'm wrong about something, correct me in the comments. But he talked about something about $200,000 to 2 million, like Jane Doe number 5, when he was you know, she upped it. Was she trying to bribe, get a shot because she was a federal informant, or was she really trying to get away with bribing, trying to extort money out of RSK, him and her? Because it sounded like they were trying to bribe or extort money out of RSK. And remember when the car and all of that in the house caught on fire, and Jane Doe number 5 kept calling 911, and when they would ask her name and she would hang up and she didn't want to give her name. Remember that? So I would, so that's like suspicious there. That's questionable behavior. That's suspicious, because there may be some truth to what he was saying. I don't know, but there may be some truth to what he was saying about her. First, it was 200,000, because remember, he asked for 200,000. RSK gave him 2,000, and he didn't do what he said he was going to do with the money. He was supposed to help a friend that was in legal trouble, but he didn't. And then he said that Jane Doe number 5 told him to up it to 2 million. And remember when she that Dr. Rice, and she was trying to, set him up too. So this person is not she's not a nice person. She has an evil heart, I believe, like her father. She has an evil heart, but she can change. See, you don't have to keep doing what your parents do. You might have been raised a certain way and you're a product of your environment, but you know right from wrong, and you don't have to keep doing wrong. You can ask God to repent, acknowledge your wrongdoing, and you can ask for deliverance of this type of lifestyle that you're leading, and all the incriminating statements that you've made on the stand when you did testify, and all these things. It's just a sad day, and I wouldn't want to be a young woman harboring this, lying, and my whole life now, my legacy. People are looking at that. What your legacy is going to be. People are looking at the fact that you said that you ate it. You came out, said you ate it, then you smeared it on your face. So if somebody gets with you, are you going to come clean with them and say, oh, I really didn't do it. I was lying to get money. I just wanted to hurt him because he hurt me. Well, you know what? I wouldn't want to be with a person that's that evil, because if that person doesn't go along with you, and if that person make a mistake or hurt you, you're going to come after them too. So I think that I would not want to be with somebody that's like that. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. I wouldn't want my children to harm people like that, and to treat people like that. I pray that, when you raise your children, you raise them God-fearing. You teach them about the word of God. You take them to church. You take them to, let them go to Sunday school. Man, this is some stuff. This case should be dismissed. And I prayed. I had a dream. But yes, I think that that this case should be dismissed. And I think about Judge Donnelly coming back and saying that she was going to dismiss the case. I think about her saying that she was going to hold Jane Doe number 5 accountable for perjury, because it's one thing if you make a mistake on the stand in your testimony, but when you keep on incriminating yourself, and the judge has to say something to you, that and the defense has to call that out, that says a lot about you. And it just says that you are perjuring yourself. To me, in my opinion, that she should be held accountable for perjury. I mean, like, she should be held accountable for perjury. I think she should, because one mistake, okay, or two, but you kept doing it over and over to where the judge had to acknowledge it and bring that out. So to me, it's like she needs to be held accountable for perjury, and that's my opinion. But we have to look at all sides of this case, not just one-sided, because, we are supporters of justice and we see the injustice in this case. But look at both sides of it. Look at the other side of the opposition, I guess I would say the prosecution side, and then look at, the defense side of it. And then let's see, Judge Donnelly said that no parents can consent, but then you have parents lying about their children's age. That's a problem right there. The parents should be charged with the Mann Act. That's how I feel about this. The parents should be charged with the Mann Act. If you took your children there, you was consensual with it and all of that, you should be charged with the Mann Act. And you see, there is so much injustice in this whole case. There's a lot of injustice in this whole case, is what I see. And I don't, like I said, know everything about it, the case, but I want to hear from you all. Put your comments below, share the video, and if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the channel. But again, in no way am I trying to victim shame anyone. because I do believe that if a man has violated a child and they willingly, intentionally, deliberately did it, and they know, then they should be held accountable. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. But we get the bad end of the stick when we talk about the side where the parents should be held accountable, where the child, the person that participated, the partakers in it, should be held accountable for lying, should be held accountable for false IDs, should be held accountable, because if we're going to change laws and we're going to be fair and just, and we're going to get our country back to get out of this sin crisis and get our country back to the way that God expects it to be. And and our judicial system, the government, to run according to how God ordained the government to be, then we do have to step up and we do have to have hard conversations. Some people may say that it's insensitive, It's not. We have to have these conversations, whether you agree with the conversations or not, whether you agree with the YouTuber or blogger or vlogger, whether you agree or not, we have to have these conversations, because at the end of the day, these laws that the Me Too movement is pushing, they're not to help people. They're not good for humanity. They are to harm people, and it's against humanity, because they're only going on one side, a bias side, instead of on what is right and fair and just overall for humanity. So we have to have these conversations. Some of them are not going to always be easy conversations. They're going to be hard conversations, but we have to have them. And so with that being said, no, I'm not a person that's going to sit here and overlook, a man that really did violate someone. No, I'm not going to overlook a woman that really violated someone. No, they need to be held accountable and go through the due process also to get to the bottom of what transpired. And we're not even asking what led up to these encounters. That's another thing. What led up to these encounters? Even with the Russell Simmons thing, what led up to those encounters where Rose McGowan came out? And I know she was spewing on Oprah, and I'm not a fan or supporter of Oprah Winfrey, but Oprah Winfrey backed out of that documentary about Russell Simmons. Russ Simmons, I think it was. Yeah, she backed out of it, but maybe she wanted another side of it. I don't know. Did she want another side of it? Did she want to have more than just one side? Because see, all these documentaries seem to be biased and one-sided. Maybe she wanted to hear both sides of it. See, just like Surviving R. Kelly, the Surviving Lives, they didn't give him an opportunity. It was one-sided. So when we look at these laws and stuff, it has to be fair, and when women are getting money, that's another thing. When women are getting money, and they're not going to the police and they're going to attorneys and getting settlements or asking for millions and millions of dollars, but yet and still they say that they were harmed, they was assaulted. Well, are you still harmed after you get paid? Are you getting therapy with the money? How are you really living your life now after getting paid so much money, but you never filed a police report? We need to have something in place that when a woman says they've been assaulted, go to the police, file a report. So when your attorney files that civil suit against the perpetrator or the accused, there is some criteria that has to be met before the courts can accept that paperwork into the courts as a civil suit that needs to go forward, because the judge reviews those documents, and if the criteria is not met, then he needs to send it back to the person that's filing the suit, whether it's a lawyer that's representing that person or the person themselves. There needs to be some specific criteria in place that they need to meet, before a civil suit is filed. But I believe that a lot of women don't go to the police, and there are some that don't want to be victim shamed. There are some that are afraid. Some are. But that's a small percentage. That's not a big percentage, because most people know that you can call the police. God, I just think it's not this thing about, oh, well, they're not going to come forward. No, that's not true. And you cannot, to me, you refuse to pass a law or even a bill that would be considered to be passed in law because you are hypothetically speaking. Stop hypothetically speaking because you don't know that they're not going to come forward. Let's get a bill out there, pass the law, and see what happens. See if your statistics go high. See what I'm saying? Or see if the women will stop falsifying, because if they go to the police and file a report, they know that they can get caught up in filing a false police report. So maybe that's why they're not going to the police and they're going to an attorney for a civil suit. Let's look at all aspects. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but that could be one reason why they're doing it. Also, they don't want the questions to be asked like FR on the stand yesterday. They were asking her questions she didn't want to answer. Why do you keep going back to this man if he was so bad and you didn't like what he was doing and you feel he violated you in so many ways? Why keep going back? Because you was hoping. You was hoping, just an ounce of hope, that you would be the one. And maybe, there was an ounce of hope or something. You kept going back. You obviously liked it. And you were still trying to extort this man. You was hoping to get something. That's why you kept going back. And maybe your mother told you to go back. In my opinion, I don't know. I'm just throwing some questions out there. But the thing about the police report, do you not know that if you file one, they're going to ask you all types of questions? And you have to be able to answer those questions. So maybe that's why, because they don't want to be scrutinized. They don't want, what led up to it? What was you doing at this man's house at 2 in the morning for a business meeting? You went over there at 1 and you saying you was there to 2 or 3 in the morning and it was a business meeting at somebody's house. Really? Was there alcohol involved? Was there drugs involved? How did it lead up? See, those are questions that's going to be asked. And I'm sure a lot more questions about when you file a police report. So they figured to bypass all that, I'm just going to go file a civil suit. And that's why there should be some specific, strict criteria when these women are going to these attorneys, having these civil suits filed on their behalf. There should be some strict criteria in order for the courts to accept the paperwork in. If it doesn't meet basic criteria, it cannot be accepted. Okay? Because, and if it's not, then, and if it gets through, the judge should throw it out if it doesn't meet all of the eligibility requirements of criteria, because this has got to stop. It has to change, because sitting up here promoting laws that do not help people, that harm the families, nuclear families, alpha heterosexual males, it is wrong on every level. God is no respecter of persons, and it is wrong for any laws to not be passed or to be passed to hurt people. And they do not apply to everybody, because what the Me Too movement is doing, those laws will not help people in nuclear families, heterosexual relationships, and alpha males. It will harm. And we should never be passing laws to harm people. That is against humanity. And you want to talk about inhuman or inhumane? That is inhumane to do so, to pass laws that do not include everyone in there to help people, but to violate people's rights and due process rights, and I would say constitutional rights. So like I said, and with Rose McGowan coming out saying that she didn't like Oprah, she really despises Oprah Winfrey or whatever, she's not a fan or whatever. Well, those women that wanted to be part of that documentary, those women that wanted to be part of that documentary, do you not know that I believe they had, I read the case some time ago, they had already been paid. He settled none something with prejudice, and they both jointly agreed on it. I forgot her name, and they both agreed upon it, and he came out and made a statement about it, that that he was innocent. And then there was another one that he said that he was looking forward to fair processes in the court system. I'm just paraphrasing. So and then there was that other one that a lot of people know, the one that sued him, and she said she was homeless and she was struggling with financial problems after getting all that money, and she, say she helped her daughter or family, but she wasted the money with bad business deals and all that other kind of stuff. See, these people, these women are looking for a come up, and they're looking to make more money off of more money. Even though they got paid, they're still looking for more money off of the person that they sued and they got a settlement, and they're looking for more money. And these documentaries will give them, an opportunity to make more money. It's not about really telling your story. I'm not going to agree with that, because if you really want to tell your story, there is another way to do it. Look at CTG's victim. Look what happened to Jessica. There is another way to tell your story. And then why didn't you tell your story to the police department? A lot of these women, they didn't tell their story the way they should tell it. If you want to tell your story and to get justice, then you should go through the police department to tell your story and put out that and file a police report. And what about, there's one other thing, and then I'm going to get off. Go through the police department to get your story told, because once it's in the police and all of that, and then it goes, it goes through the they bring charges. It's going to come out most of the time in the media anyway, even though the media is very biased. Even though the media is very biased, it's going to come out anyway. And then, that was one other thing that I wanted to say, and I lost it. One other thing, that I wanted to say. But yeah, getting your story out there and telling the truth. But yeah, they want to make more money off of these men. And that's wrong. If you got a settlement, deal with your settlement, manage it, and move forward, and quit bringing up old stuff, rolling over a stone. Proverbs 26:27, clause B, rolling over a stone. A lot of these women want to keep rolling over a stone. And God says that when you roll over that stone, it'll be rolled back over on you. And people don't realize that. So stop rolling over a stone, because it's going to be rolled back over on you. If you already got paid, move forward. Stop trying to bring up these people's name, these men names in all of this stuff when you've already got paid. And, when you've already got paid. And, it's really a sad day in America that our judicial system is not operating the way that God established it to. For these women to be lying, and for the prosecution to coach them into lying. This case, I don't feel that it has proved to be a RICO at all. And it seems like his sexual life is more on trial than anything else. And we want the truth. We want to get to the bottom of all of this. And I'm praying and hoping that we will get to the bottom of a lot of this that's going on, but these laws that need to be passed, and we got to work on that, and getting a movement maybe to have, to talk about this, that establishing a movement, that women do lie, and that they need to stop lying, about what they're doing and what they're saying, because it's definitely not right. And it's not just about what if you have a daughter, it's also about what if you have a son, because we don't want our sons to be falsely accused either. Just like we don't want our daughters to be harmed if they really have been assaulted. But we also don't want our sons to be falsely accused. We want a fair and a fair trial, and the judicial system to be fair and just, as God expects us to be fair and just, because he is a fair and just God. But we do know that there's a lot of people out here that don't want the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. And even when they get the truth, they don't want to accept the truth. And they want to keep putting out false narratives. And as YouTubers and bloggers, we have to put out the truth. And we have to put it out the best of our ability and knowledge, and do our research on it. But I speak, I stand on the side of justice, and I see the injustice that's going on, and, with this particular defendant, And it's just so sad. And you have the same women that are fighting to take away, our rights and heterosexual men rights are the same ones that most of them are married to a man. You got to think about that. A lot of them were either married to a man or they're married to a man. So do they really believe what they're doing, or they're just making money off of real victim stories and, making money off of real victim stories? Do they really believe what they're, these young women, because none of them are helping them. Like I talked about, that young female was 7 years old and she was 10. I don't know how old she is now, and how these 48 and 50-year-old men were raping her and took her to a hotel and all of that. And they reported it and nothing was done about it, for a long time. That's really sad. And you're saying you're helping young girls. Oh, what I want to say is, and then I'm done, is the courts. Aren't they mandated reporters, these employees that work in the court? Some of them are, and all of them are. And another thing is, when this was going on with the marriage thing, how come they didn't report it? How come they didn't call the police and say, hey, look what's going on? They're trying, this a false ID here, and this man is trying to marry an underage female, and there's no appropriate documentation to back up that he's allowed to do that, because it would be an underage to be consent of the parents. So aren't they mandated reporters? Why didn't they do their job? See, it's so many questions involving, but it's one person on trial, one person, that's facing persecution. It's one person that's facing a lot of jail time because, allegedly a lot of jail time. I don't know how much jail time, but it's one person that's facing a guilty or not guilty verdict. And when your life is on the line like that, your life is like that in the hands of man, you have got to trust God and believe God that my life is in the hands of the Lord. My life, my future is in God's hands. And you have to believe that, and you have to trust God that your life and your future is in God's hands, not in man. Because down here, what I talked to you all about a few days ago is that what's impossible with man is possible with God. And we see that, the widow kept going back to a judge that said that he did not fear God and that he didn't regard man. He had lack of regard for man. In Luke chapter 18, if you go back and read that, he didn't fear God and he had a lack of regard for man. And what we see in this case is that there are people not fearing God and they have a lack of regard for man. Because if they feared God, they wouldn't be promoting lies on the stand and coaching these witnesses to lie. And they would be trying to do right and get to the truth of the matter to see what really transpired. And did he commit any crimes that was illegal? And we have to take our emotions out of it. Just because they may be conservative and don't believe he should have been doing this and that with these women, but they participated in it, they volunteered, whatever they did, they were part of it, and they liked what they were doing. Because if I don't like something, I'm not going to do it again. If I don't like something, I'm not going back. If a restaurant doesn't treat me good and they got a history of, I'm not going back. See, I'm telling you, and I know this is more about just a restaurant, but it's just a basic mere example. And everybody should be able to understand basic thinking. You know what I'm saying? Basic surface level, basic thinking. And you should be more than surface level thinkers anyway, but basic thinking. So I'm not going to go back. So, you got to look at this whole thing. What you do in your bedroom may not be what somebody else is going to allow and accept in their bedroom. But I believe, and I'll say it again, and I'm not going to stop, is that, some of these people probably are wild. You would not even imagine some of these people trying to act like they don't do this. They appalled at this and what they're hearing. But guess what? They may be in their bedroom swinging from the chandeliers and the ceiling fan and getting it on and all that stuff. And they would be the first ones. If R. Kelly did have put his name and song on a dildo, they would have been the first ones probably in line to buy it. So at the end of the day, let's get to the truth of the matter. Let's take feelings and emotions out of it and look at the laws, and let's do something to change these laws so that everyone has a fair right to life in society. God bless you all on today. Peace out.